Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lie.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl Nee. Join Carl alongside frequent co-hosts Lisa Otey and Hollis Lewis as they explore dynamic conversations with guests from all walks of life. Let's Talk is proudly brought to you by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. Visit frankwalkerlaw.com. The conversation starts now. This is Let's Talk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have my co-host, both of them here today. Hollis Lewis on one mic and Lisa Otey on the other.
Hello.
Today's kind of an interesting thing because it's going to be the first time that we've actually put out a subject so that you could hear the conversation about it, and then we're going to come in and then we're going to actually discuss it. So from Get Up, if you haven't heard this, it's a Get Up on Instagram. Take a listen, and then we'll be right back as soon as you hear it.
There was no issue when Jordan was around. There was no issue when Kobe was around. There's no issue when Sidney Crosby was around. There's no issue when Wayne Gretzky was around, because those are true leaders. They lead by example. Sidney Crosby, Hockey Canada, those players, both Canada and U.S., it was the players that did that for the four nations. It's not the league. The league set it up, but the players went out there and decided and said, you know what, boys? We're all in. When is the NBA going to do that? Because, I haven't sat down and watched the NBA consistently since Kobe. I love basketball. Love the players. I think LeBron's great. I think KD's great. Steph Curry. Love watching them. But you got to be on the court. You got to be there. And when you're there, you got to go all in. The fans got to feel that they're getting their money's worth. And right now, there's a big difference between what the NHL's doing with those events and what the NBA's doing. Four Nations works because the players are all in.
All right.
Okay, and that's PK Stubborn. He's a former hockey player. He's an analyst now, and he's commenting on the NBA versus the NHL All-Star Game and just overall effort.
And I have to admit, I think he's right. And I think part of where basketball is going is a dangerous place. I think it's a really, really dangerous place because I think and maybe it's just too many games. It could be that could very
but
well.
It's always been.
I get it. I get it.
We can't say that.
But I'm just saying, maybe now these players kind of feel like they don't want to play. They don't have the ability to play. I mean, when you see the LeBron sitting on the sideline, I mean, bro, if that's hurt, I'm hurt every day.
Yeah, and he actually made a comment, and again, it's like a big just failure to read the room. He had made a comment the other day, and he's talking about this is LeBron tweeting about their back-to-back schedule. So they had they had a back-to-back, and then they had a day off, and then another back-to-back around sort of the West Coast. And it's just like, bro, man, read the room. Nobody cares. You're getting paid millions, gazillions of dollars, and you're complaining about having to play on back-to-back days. So I go ahead.
No, you finish. Go ahead.
No, and I was just saying, in addition to just PK's comments just directly about the All-Star Game, to me, the bigger he said the quiet part out loud where he took a direct shot at LeBron James.
I think so too.
As a leader of the NBA and just the overall effort that people are following his effort.
And hold your thought there just 1 second, because again, now we're talking about someone who wants to be, and a lot of people think is the GOAT. Now, when you start talking about being the GOAT, and you are setting the example,
and the tone,
are you? What is that tone that you're setting? Go ahead, Lisa. I know you're.
No. I was just going to say. So here's the other side of that. I understand what you're saying about reading the room, and there's a difference between being injured and actually being hurt. That's two completely different things, two different settings. But what would have happened? Let's say he would have played hurt. What he told the media, and he did get hurt. He did sustain an injury, and then he's out for the next few games that are pretty essential in them making a deep playoff run. So I can see where you might make a decision that if you're on borderline hurt, that could possibly turn into an injury. Would you sit out a game like that? I mean, if you're LeBron, I say yes.
But I think the problem with that, and I understand, and that's actually exactly correct.
right. I agree.
But the problem is he didn't tell the NBA, he didn't tell them that he wasn't playing, but just right before the game. And to me, PK's comments weren't necessarily about the All-Star game. His comments were about, this is LeBron's era, and this is a terrible era to watch basketball. And it starts with LeBron. So is this LeBron's fault as to what we're seeing? Because I think what we can say is that during this era, this is the era of player empowerment. And this was ushered in by LeBron. But kind of the other side of that is that players ain't playing hard every game. You're not getting the night in and night out games. Just the regular season games, they aren't really competitive. Some are just bad watches. Guys don't want to play back-to-back. Load management. Banana boat boys. Just that whole vibe. It's just not competitive, and it's not like fierce like it once was.
So it's a culture issue.
It's a culture issue, and the culture starts with LeBron, according to PK.
And again, if you see that, let's say you're a college star, okay, and you're going to end up in the NBA, and you're going to likely be a top pick. Who are you looking at? And what example is he showing? And again, to his sitting out, if I read this right, they weren't aware of that until late.
Yeah,
and
he's just a few hours.
Yeah,
I think,
just
before the
hours
game.
before the game. Now, I can't say that I know the NBA structure of how injuries work and who decides if you're playing or not. I know in the NFL, you go to the trainer. If you don't go to the trainer and you're talking about you're out, bro, you got issues.
Yeah, this is an All-Star game. It might work different.
Yeah, I would say
But
that's
I'm going to say, yes, it does. But if you know you're not going to play, you're taking somebody's seat.
That part is true.
If I know I'm not going to play, at the time that I say I'm not going to play, I'm going to give someone else an opportunity. Yeah. I'm in a Pro Bowl, and all of a sudden I'm in Hawaii, all expenses paid, and I walk out with no gear on, day of the game.
And you say you're hurt.
Say I'm hurt. How's that?
But see, to me, that's just not the issue. The issue is the culture that's being laid. To me, regardless of whether you play, it's an All-Star game. Like, who really cares? You know what I'm saying?
I think people do. I think the people do care about. Some people do care about the All-Star game.
Nobody cared about the All-Star game.
The ones who watch.
Yeah.
But here's my thing.
The fans who paid for tickets to go, they care.
Absolutely.
That's about it. Nobody watched that game.
And the reality of it, in my contract, I might have an incentive. If I make the All-Star game, then I get extra numbers.
That would matter.
And,
that would
and
matter
LeBron,
to another player.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to make the case, and I can't prove this, but I know I can tell you, and both of you all kind of have a good understanding of a locker room. Dude, lady, when there's that dude that's in the locker room, that's that lady that's in the locker room who thinks that they're better than you, and you can just feel it. Bro, you kind of got an issue. I can remember when Herschel Walker showed up in the locker room. Bro, everybody had a feeling about him.
But
regardless of how good or bad he was.
I don't think that's LeBron, though. And I think when we talk about...
I think it is a lot LeBron.
I think the problem is that you don't feel that with LeBron. Well, I think that from the conversations that other players had about Kobe and Mike, there was that mystique. Like when they walk in, I'm better than you, and you're going to have to catch up, and you're going to have to work harder to be just as good as me, if not better. And I think with LeBron, you don't have that. LeBron is kind of one of the guys. And as far as the culture of this current era of the NBA, it's like that. I mean, they had a conversation with like Anthony Edwards, who's a young gun out there, plays for Minnesota. And they was talking about who's the face of the league when LeBron goes. And he was like, well, I don't want it. Why wouldn't you want it? Kobe was starved for it when Mike was leaving. And we don't have that. So I think the problem is LeBron is one of the guys. He's too close to the ground. He doesn't demand that aura.
Okay, I'm just going to back it up. I'm going to go back to the whole premise of the video. First of all, there's an inherent problem between comparing hockey and basketball.
Facts.
I just feel like that's comparing apples and oranges. The whole nature of hockey is physicality. It's, it's trash talk. It's all the things that the NBA has kind of weaned out of their game. And rightly so. I mean, the NBA and the NFL, they've kind of looked at their sports or prospective sports as a business. And so they've kind of toned down, what they're allowing their players to do compared to hockey. And hockey, those players, that probably of all the professional leagues, they're the least paid, correct?
I would, yeah.
And so who knows what their contracts look like? Who knows, it could be something that they aren't, if they don't play, they don't get paid.
Heavily incentivized.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, to me, though, the whole idea of comparing hockey and basketball in any manner really is kind of ludicrous.
But he's comparing effort. I don't think he's comparing.
I'm with you because he didn't say anything about money.
Well, no,
he didn't say anything about money.
But he did talk about warriors and that the hockey players go out there and they're always playing. It's a different game. It's a different vibe.
But I would argue that the NBA and the NFL eradicating those issues out of the league, it hurt the league.
It did.
It hurt to watch it because the NFL is not the same to watch, although safety concerns. As far as basketball, they've taken all the physicality out of it.
And if we box in, let's just say the All-Star game, and there's no comparison. I mean, nobody particularly likes the NBA All-Star game because there's nothing. So I think what's happening is you've got a guy who's a hockey guy who, if they're playing an all-star game, if they're playing a game, they're just saying anytime they hit the ice. What he's saying is anytime that we hit the ice, we hit it with all our heart.
But
we're going to give everything that we got to that.
Didn't they play other countries though in their
almost like a World Cup?
That's going to take more heart. That's going to put a whole different attitude on the way you play besides an intramural game. I mean, basically, is what the NBA game
is. But you go back to Kobe, you go back to Michael, and they were playing against. They weren't playing against another country. They were playing against guys that they would play in the league, and they going all out.
And again, we getting lost in the All-Star game. Forget the All-Star game. This ain't about that.
Okay.
His comments were a direct shot at LeBron and the culture of the NBA. This is what that's about.
Okay, so tell me directly, do you buy that?
I do buy that.
Okay, I buy it.
I think if you look at the current, like I said, if you look at this current era, it's just not. Like I said, it's almost the whole
body
play.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. I won't say not competitive, but it's not fierce. It's too friendly. It's too homeboy. It's too like I said. Some players like Paul George are more concerned about their podcast than they are playing. We got a Joel Embiid who's about to make $50-60 million a year, and you're just not playing. We got Jokic, not Jokic, but Luka Doncic, who got traded in the prime of his career, and what they were able to say about him, whether it's true or not, man, you don't take care of yourself. You're not in shape. How can you say that about a premier? That would never be the question about a premier player decades ago.
And to your point, okay, he seems okay now.
LA's different.
I understand.
You can't hide in LA.
Well, so I'm just making the case. Okay, so now you move him. So now he's playing. So maybe the issue was you.
It could have been, but the fact of the matter is you traded him for nothing.
I agree.
So what I'm saying, the overall culture is that everybody, if that expendable based on your lack of grit, the problem is with the players, and the problem's with the culture of the players.
And the fans are buying into what Hollis is saying, for sure. Did you read some of the comments on this video?
No, go ahead, please.
I mean, some of the comments, I always like to read the comments to see what people are, what their vibe is over the whole thing. And some of them were like, the NBA is the worst major sport. Their players don't care. Players love money, not the sport. It's one of the, talking. And then also the interest in the hockey. I mean, people were like promoting it, like saying, they've got a new fan in me, But to me, and I'm going to throw this out there, like I said, the NBA All-Star game is more of an intramural game. I mean, I'm sorry. You're going to get more fired up, especially, and I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not going to go there, but I am going to kind of throw a little bit of indication there. In our political climate right now, the USA playing Canada was a big deal. Okay, we know there's been things going on.
That's true.
And so that caused a little more interest in the hockey game than normal. And then once people watched it, they see the fun, the physicality of it. Like you said, they're into it. They've got that warrior spirit, and so they may gain some more fans from this. But I think, like you said, Hollis and Carl, NBA has some issues. I think I've said this before. You can't manufacture soul. They just go out there and they just a lot of times go through the motions. They're out there to collect a check. They don't act like they care. Until the playoffs. Now that's when they start to pick up their pace. But regular season, I think we've all said this before. I could care less if I watch a game. I mean, I may watch pieces here and there, but I'm not going to sit for a full 4 quarters because it's the same thing over and over, like you said.
And the fact of the matter is like, again, because the heads of the NBA, Adam Silver, what they try to do is they want to tinker it to death. Mm-hmm. You cannot, like you said, you cannot tinker effort. It doesn't matter what you do. Right. If you're not going to put out the effort, if you're not going to go out there, if you're not going to play hard, why should I care? If the play is sloppy, it's like I said, it's not fun to watch. That's why, again, I know the women game is still growing, but I think there's a greater appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
Because you have so much effort and so much dog out there.
Yes.
It's just funner to like watch,
energy.
Particularly if you come from watching basketball in a certain era.
I'm 100% with you on that. And one of the things that I try to, if I'm going to watch a basketball game, one of the things that I want to see the physicality. I want to see the effort, because when you're going all out, I mean, you're going to take a charge, you're going to push a guy, you know what I'm saying? Because it matters if you win. It matters if you get that shot. It matters if you get that rebound. You know what I'm saying? And and to your point, Hollis, you don't see that. And I think the visual piece of what we see is a turnoff altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
And the problem is we can't. I don't know how you fix it.
I know how you fix it.
Give me, please tell me.
I don't think you fix it. Number one, I don't think you fix it like starting at the NBA. I think you fix it starting at the youth level. I think that number one, in the NBA's goal to expand to become a world game, it's become a worse game. We are not the Euro League, right?
Right.
You have to play American style basketball, and that has to be promoted. So I think, to your point, Lisa, some of the contact and physicality has got to come back in the game. I think we have to play position basketball, and I think you have to teach the game, far as just like what the NFL's done, where they like tinker down and they have all the NFL initiative as far as youth sports coming all the way up. That's the same thing the NBA has to do, and they have to emphasize American style basketball and not what we're seeing now.
All right. Well, I sent another video. So to your point of where we need to fix it, let's listen to this and see where we go.
But if we were more honest with young people like this and told them the truth like that, we'd be in a lot better spot in society than we are right now, because all we tell young people now is, it's okay. Oh, it got tough. It's okay to quit. Or you're right. You're oppressed. Like, you're not having success and it's not your fault. If we just, regardless of what you look like, where you're from, whatever, if we could have that type of mindset of life is hard. When life gets hard and life gets tough, that's when you find out how tough you are.
And that's in reference to the Rick Pitino halftime speech, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Which they couldn't play that one. They would they would have to edit it so much that
I mean,
it would be crazy.
So to your point, at the younger levels, all the way, they don't get the example at the pro level. So what does college look like? You don't get the example at the college level. What's high school look like? Then what you bring in is you bring youth level, where a lot of parents think that their kid is is great. Can't wait till he gets to high school or middle school. And then by the time they get to high school, they might not even be playing. And or they don't know how to work. They don't. There's so many kids, I think, in the Kanawha Valley. I think that there are so many young kids who has the foundation, has some roots of being able to be a really good player. But I think that they just don't know how to get there. And they end up finding themselves mad at because the coach put them on the bench because they didn't do this. You know, they're crying. You know, you talk about the youth. I mean, we got kids crying because they got mad because they missed a shot. You know, we're losing. Game ain't even over. I mean, just like all of that kind of stuff. That can you imagine crying to your to a coach coming off?
I think here's the issue, right? When we talk about that, we don't have a culture now where you take your kid to practice, drop them off, and then come back and get them when it's over. We're not allowing coaches just to coach, right? We are hovering, we're helicoptering, and we're not. That coach just can't coach, right? Because he has to coach the kids. He has to kind of low-key coach the parents. He has to coach the crowd. That coach, him or her, has to do too much, and they just can't coach. And they can't coach in a manner that's just going to be raw and honest. And again, raw and honest. Again, we want to be nice, but we want to be kind, but not nice, right? We want to just be able to, as a coach, just express how it is and be able to teach you from there. But coaches can't do that anymore. And then some of the coaches, they haven't took the time to really learn their craft, right? So I think the problem is with the coaching, and as a sort of an auxiliary problem, is parents not allowing coaches just to coach, and nobody can take honest conversations anymore.
Only thing I'm gonna question that you said is, you know, because I'm sure there's a coach that can't coach or doesn't know how to coach or don't know how to coach all the details of a position or period, right? Okay. Yeah. But I think, you know, everybody thinks that maybe, because I don't think it's always the coach. And I'm not saying that you said that, but I think if I tell you to do this and you got a problem with doing that, you ain't coachable anyway.
That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true, because what I'm saying as a coach, there's a psychology element, and that's what I'm saying. You as a coach, that can't just be the solution. There's a psychology to coaching. So you got to, number one, know the kids.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. So in your position, whoever is above you, and he says do this, you may have the ability to say, well, do you want me to do it this way, that way, whatever? But you're going to do it. So, but if you don't have no question about what he said, you're going to likely do what? Do what they say.
Yeah, but you can't compare.
Yes, you can.
No.
Because
you can't compare an adult to a child. A child don't have that level of understanding. So what I'm saying, and did
you have it when you grew up? When you came through football?
No, I'm telling you why I had it. Because there was consequences to it. That coach could darn near whoop me as far as being in a small kid. It was the different consequences that you had to deal with that you don't have to deal with now. Because you know that coach, he ain't gonna cuss you. She or he can't really cuss you out. They definitely ain't putting their hands on you. So there's no consequences that way. That's what I'm saying. When your mom and dad dropped you off at that field or the baseball diamond or basketball court, that was your de facto parent.
Absolutely. You
know what I'm saying? Yes. And a lot of those coaches were teachers. So not only did they have a knowledge base of whatever sport they were doing, they understood how to teach. Like, I got to teach this one that way. I got to do it that way. And it's little things that I could do to get my point across to him, her, or them. So I think, again, just the culture of how they are able or what they're not really able to do as far as instruction-wise has changed. And the job has almost become impossible. Where Rick Pitino, an NBA, NCAA championship coach, is coaching effort during a halftime of a game at a Division I basketball program. He's literally coaching effort.
Yes.
That should tell you everything you need to know right there.
I'm going to put this out there. I do agree with the fact that coaches need to be knowledgeable about the game. They need to understand how to coach the kids. I think the main thing that they need to make, though, is a connection. If those kids don't feel like that coach has their best interest at heart and cares about them, it doesn't matter what the coach does. It doesn't matter what the coach teaches. They have to make that literal connection with the kid and the trust factor.
But what does that connection look like, though?
Well,
because
in today's,
a coach cussing me out, I guess that was a connection. I don't know. Because what does a connection
I think
look
all
like?
kids and teams are different, right?
Okay,
and in
that's true.
society today, I mean, sports is just a reflection of society. And so when you look at outside of the sports boundaries, that's society today. I mean, people don't take criticism well. It's a I don't know. I don't want to say self-absorbed.
Self-loathing, probably.
Well, self-loathing's a good way to put it. But I just feel like the coaches have to understand their players. And the players are all going to be different, team to team, year to year.
Yeah.
All right, so I have the luxury of being able to have both of those types of coaches at Marshall and in Minnesota. I had Bob Pruitt and Sonny Randall. Sonny Randall's going to yell and cuss you all day long, grab your face mask, pull you to him, and cuss you out. And you're going to take it, or you ain't going to play. All right? Coach Pruitt is going to laugh and joke. Now, he's going to get you ready. He's got all the knowledge to get you ready, as we've all seen. Bud Grant, he ain't talking to you. He ain't gonna walk by and say, "Hey, Hollis, how you doing? You doing all right?" But he ain't gonna give you none of that. He'll walk right by you 50 times in practice. Do something wrong. Now I go back over and I got Pete Carroll, who's cracking jokes and all of that kind of stuff. The issue isn't really the coach. In my mind, I'm not thinking that it's the coach. It is you as the athlete who have to adjust to what the system is. Hollis is shaking his head. But here's the thing. When you take it and you say, well, sports is a good example of work. When you're told by your boss what to do, you may not like what you do, but you got to do it, regardless of it. And when and where and how do we get that? Because what is sports supposed to be? Because sports is not about winning championships. It's not about being an all-pro. It's not being about all-state. It's not none of that. Okay? That's none of the lessons that you get. The question is, whatever you get out of it has to be something that's going to impact you going forward in life. And to me, it is understanding of taking harsh criticism, taking advice, getting in trouble, all those kind of things. When you do wrong, when you can't keep coming late.
But the thing is, you can't take your anecdotal experience of how you were because it didn't matter who the coach was.
I'm not taking it.
What I'm saying, though,
but I gotta get you. Get you. No, because it's not. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the structure, how it has to be. But I'm telling you, I know I went through it.
But what I'm saying though is it doesn't for you. It didn't matter who the coach was because you had a goal locked in your head when you was a kid and nothing was going to stop you. So for any type of coaching, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was smooth, good, or harsh. But I'm saying for the kid who's out there, who's kind of just there playing, don't really have a goal, what they want to do, you have to coach that kid different. And as a coach, you have to be allowed to coach. I need to cuss you out. I need to hug you. I need to do this. And what I'm saying now is that because we came up in a different era where coaches could do that. Coaches can't do that now. Coaches literally cannot coach the sport that they are expert in, quote unquote. They can't coach.
It is clear why I was unsuccessful and why I got out of it. Because I'm coaching a team. Now, I can take you and sit you down and have a conversation, right? Even when I was at state, I'm okay with sitting down and explaining to you what you have, what you don't have, what you need to be doing, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to you doing something that's out of whack, bro, I'm cussing you out. I'm not going to. You do something. it doesn't really matter what your goal is. It's the life lessons that we're missing. See, it's unfair to say to me that it's because I had a goal to get somewhere. I had some coaches. No, it is not. Because I had coaches that I would make the case that most people could not go through.
You can deal with them because you had a goal set, so it didn't matter who was in front of you.
I went through them because I had a mom who gave me an example of that. So I had a dad, right, who was like those coaches.
What happens when you? That's what I'm saying. As a coach, I have to coach that player, and I can't just think about the team, or I can't think about just holistically. I mean, I have to think about that and obviously consider all that, but I still have to coach each individual player, and I have to coach that player a little differently, 1-to-1. To get maybe the best. And then not only do I have to coach them, but I have to figure, like I said, it's a psychology to figure out how I can get the best out of these players.
And I'll go a step further. I think these coaches, the successful coaches at every level of any sport, have charisma. They have that intangible.
That's a fact.
You know, I mean, there's just something about those people, those coaches, that the players, they're attracted to it. It's a type of energy.
I think they're attracted to the actual wins and losses that were put up even before they get there. But hold your thought, Hollis. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Let's face it, bad things happen to good people. Seriously injured in a car accident, trucking accident, or even wrongfully arrested. Life happens, and when it happens to you, you will need sound legal advice and aggressive representation. That's when you call attorney Frank Walker at 304-413-0179. That's 304-413-0179. Lock it in your phone, text it to a friend. 304-413-0179. Or visit online at attorneyfrankwalker.com.
This Saturday, we've got wall-to-wall basketball action on the Voice of Charleston. It all starts at 1:30 as George Washington hosts Parkersburg South, followed by Winfield at Hoover at 5:30. Then, College Hoops takes center stage at 8:45 as Arizona heads to Iowa State in a primetime showdown. Catch all the action on air at 580 WCHS or stream live at WCHSnetwork.com/sports.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Visit frankwalkerlaw.com. Share your thoughts, ask questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook page. Just search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And don't forget to like the page to join the conversation. Catch past episodes anytime at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. And tune in Thursday nights at 7 or Sunday evenings at 8 for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back after a break, and I had to interrupt Lisa. Lisa, jump back in and go from where you were.
Oh, no. I just what I said before. It's these successful coaches, regardless of what level and what sport, they have an intangible, and that is charisma. And I know you mentioned something about, the wins and losses help, make that charisma. Mm-hmm. I think it has to be there from the start. I think the wins and losses follow the charisma because they motivate those players. They find ways to get to those players, to bring out their best, regardless of where they are. Look at Rick Pitino, what he's done at St. John's this year. I mean, that team is like 24-4.
Yeah.
And last year, I don't even think they made the tournament. I mean, they're expected to possibly win it. And
he's won everywhere he's went to.
Everywhere he goes. So there's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I feel like there's just some people that are just, they naturally have that spirit about them, that attraction that people respect and want to do what they say.
And to be a good coach, you have to win. Like I don't.
Oh, I agree.
You have to win.
I agree.
You cannot. It's like giving the job example. You can't be last place in whatever sales position and expect people to follow you. It's a good coach. You have to win. That's part of the gig.
Sure.
Right. And I 100% buy that. But there are times when great coaches just don't have great players. And when that happens, the question becomes, well, now what you do? Now, those coaches are even able to get people to come in. They can draft people that can play. They know what they need. So to that great coach, he or she has the ability to rebuild, right?
And get the best out of what they have.
And get the best.
That's the key right there.
Because they could be 5-5, and maybe that's the best you got.
Right.
So I think that,
and maybe two and whatever.
Maybe
might be the best you got.
So I think great coaches are able to get the best, extract the best out of whatever they have.
And I think it's too easy to point at the coach and assume that's the reason. Because a lot of times that's not the reason.
I would disagree. It's always the reason. The coaching is the reason. Now, again, I'm not saying there's just factors that don't affect that. Like I just said, parents, particularly in youth and high school sports, they have just killed it pretty much. But like I'm saying, as a coach, you have to coach through it, and you got to figure out a way around it.
But that's not blame. That's work.
That's work.
They're putting in that work. But at the end of the day, everybody can see it. Everybody can see what the negativity is. They get it. The coach, you looking at a coach who's out there doing all he can do, and you're not winning. You go back and you look at South Charleston with wrestler. Okay, this past season, all the best kids have already left. All right, so he's got young kids. Okay, that's all he's got. Those young kids may not have ever really had a chance to be on the field. They may not be the best, but they're the best that he's got. So he has to put them on the field and hope. You can't put that on him. What you put that on is you put that on the political piece of this that allows kids to go wherever they want. Parents who want to go where they want to go. They want to take their kids where they want to go.
You got to convince them not to go.
So there ain't no convincing.
It's on you.
No.
It's on you.
There ain't no convincing.
It's on you.
You're not.
It's on you.
Okay. You can say that, and there'll be and I guarantee you, there's a whole host of people buying into that.
No, I'm saying it's on you. I'm not saying again what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a big part of this in which you cannot control, right? But at the end of the day, whatever the record is, whatever the
I'm not challenging that.
What I'm saying is it's on him. You got to take it.
I'm not challenging that. I'm not challenging that. Coach is always going to take the blame. You got to have the shoulders to take the blame.
Right.
But that doesn't make it the reality.
I mean, I'm not necessarily
my question
disagreeing with that. Like I just said, parents have made it very difficult for coaches.
Okay, and if you're making it difficult for me, then I can make the case. Then at that point, you're making my job harder.
Yeah, but you got to. But that's the environment. That's the environment that we in. So it's just like you have to figure out a way to coach through it.
I have said this forever. I have no issue with my record at West Virginia State. None. Mm-hmm. I have no issue with my record at at South Charleston High School at all. None. It don't change who I am. It don't make me feel like, oh gosh, I'm so bad. No, it don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. But what I do know, in both of those situations, that there was work that had to be done. Big work that had to be done.
Big work.
At state,
big work.
I was willing to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? And did it for a while. Okay? Got the most out of what I think I had. And I think in my mind, when I look at that, I don't judge that on the wins. I judge that on the men. Now, high school, a whole nother story. Okay? In one season, what I realized was parents couldn't see. Parents didn't want to see what the problem was. The people in the bleachers, or on Facebook and all those kind of places talking about, I'm taking my kid, what? Fine. No, don't take your kid. Let me go. Because I don't want this. I don't need this. And not because I don't care about the kids, because that's what I do every single day. The problem is what you don't know.
But you can't.
I can't. I'm not putting the blame on them.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
It sounds like you're putting the blame.
No. I did not say. I take the loss. I'm taking the loss.
This issue, it's just got so many layers, really, and you could just keep digging and keep finding more. But I really feel like what you're saying about the coach takes the blame. I understand that to a degree at other levels, the collegiate level, beyond that, the professional level. I think at the high school level, that's only a piece of the pie because you've got to look at just take, for example, West Virginia. When a parent decides they want to take their student athlete to a different facility, they're not just going to be looking at the coach. They're going to be looking at the actual facility.
True.
What kind of academic programs are offered there? What kind of a socioeconomic what kind of people are they going to be interacting with? All of those things play a factor as well in the portal. So at the high school level. So I feel like once you it's really sticky and it's really tricky at the high school level because I really don't feel like it's just about coaching. I feel like there's so many other factors that play a part when a parent switches their kids from one place to another. They may follow a coach, but more often than not, they're looking at the whole picture, the whole program, and what their kid's getting into.
And let me say this. And neither one of you have to necessarily respond to this, but to your point, Coach Mays is back at South Charleston High School. Okay, now his history says I'm not going to recruit kids from other places. Okay, he's going to have to do that at South Charleston. Okay, there's no option for him to win. There's no way he's winning with the group that's there now. They're just too young. Got thrown into the system because all the older kids, best kids, all left. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now, the bad thing about that is he's going to bring some kids in. Some kids are going to want to come and play for him. Now, what happens is now the parent has to now look at, well, is somebody going to come in and be the quarterback and my son's not going to play? Is somebody going to come in and be a running back and my kid's not going to play? Somebody going to be a linebacker and my kid's not going to play? Now the question is, my kid playing or winning? Are we going to be okay when he starts to bring in other kids to win? He's not going to field this team that's at South Charleston right now. He will not field that team come August with just those players. He's likely going to bring some Hurricane kids with him. Probably get some Capital kids to come because he's a coach that has a record of getting to the playoffs.
He wins.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to be able to get kids to come his way. Now, my question is, if you're a parent and your kid's playing, and all of a sudden he's not playing, how you feeling?
That's the reality of it now.
Is it?
I think that is the pure reality of it.
Okay, that's the reality. That don't mean how you feel.
No, again, but that's the reality of it. I think you are, at some point, you're realizing that that's coming. If, in fact, there are other kids going to be coming in, and that's the reality of it. Now, you have the option. You can stay and fight and try to get back on the field, or you can go somewhere else where you think you can play. But that's the reality of what's going on with high school sports now. And I don't think anybody's under any disillusion that that's probably going to be, that's potentially a scenario that could happen. So it's not a problem per se.
It is a situation that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if they want to build a culture of the boosters want to win, probably the kids that they have obviously are not the kids that they need to field on a team to be able
those kids
to,
are going
to
to
make
need additional development.
Exactly, one or the other.
So you might not. I mean, maybe you don't play this year, or you play sparingly, and you get on the field next 2 years or whatever.
My issue is for the kid that's getting ready to go. Is going to be a senior this year.
Again, that's the reality of it.
And I know, I get it. You got to go in and you got to ball. If you're gonna start,
it may motivate those kids to work harder.
It might.
And I just think that's the culture, that's the psychology that now coaches have to deal with, and they have to deal with. Again, you have to deal with the kids that are coming in. You got to deal with the kids that were there, and you have to deal with both sets of parents.
Well,
you have to be prepared to deal with all that. And again, I'm not saying it's fair that you do, but that's the reality of coaching now. So you're not just dealing with the players. You have to deal with parents on both sides of the arguments. You have to deal with administration. You have to deal with it all.
Do you?
Yes.
This is something I don't know. I honestly don't know, and I'm speculating, or I'm asking, more so asking. So what would make a coach come to you and say, "Hey, look, your son played quarterback. He's not what we're going to be able to need to do whatever we think we're going to try to do this season. I'm going to bring a couple quarterback in from different places. He's likely going to be, probably, third on the depth chart. And just want you to know." And I'm just saying that's if you were able to get that alert in advance, what would you think? How would you feel?
I mean, I thank you for your honesty. I mean, I would appreciate it, but I know coach talk, and again, it's not directed at Mays or anybody, but coach talk says, yeah, he's going to be able to compete. And we're not saying all the other stuff.
Right.
Coach talk is going to say, hey, we're going to be able to compete, and we'll figure it out.
Everybody's going to compete.
Yeah, that's what coach talk does.
Yes. And let me just give you a hint. If a coach tells you that we're going to go out there and we're going to compete and the best player is going to play, your son's got an issue. Probably. Or your daughter's got an issue.
Probably. But I just think, like I said, I just think overall when you talk about coaching in this time and era, coaching is very, very difficult. And if you're not willing to, like I said, if you're not willing to learn what's new, far as, techniques and new offense, new defense, if you're not willing to adjust to the new psychology that you have to have, coaching, like I said, parents, players, and men, everybody, you can't, it's no way you can be successful in this era. And I think that's probably a reason, even if you look at like a Deion, he's been successful because he understands the psychology of kids, but he can't cross the line to the NFL because he knows
it's a different world.
Yeah, it's a different world, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do here.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, no, I was just going to throw this out there for conversation. Do you think Hurricane was aware that this was a possibility? Do you think it was something that he just, when he realized the other coach stepped down, was he unhappy there? I mean, there's just so many questions I have. Like, he's going from a program that's pretty well established to a challenge, really. And I'm just wondering, what kind of thoughts were going through his head when he decided to make this move.
What the heart was.
I think his objective is to prove that he
can do it.
He can do it. I think that's
kind of like Coach Huff.
Yes, I think he feels like he can do it. He thinks that he can turn that program around. And again,
and he does have deep roots there. He was there a long time.
I think that's the part.
Yes.
I think his roots are there.
Yeah.
He loves it.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen this with
he pulled his roots up.
Coach Carpenter. We seen it with Coach Carpenter coming back to Capital. We seen with I think Walker. He was at Concord. He went back to Martinsburg. So I think if you're ingratiated into a community, you love that community. You love the kids there. You thought maybe the grass is greener, but maybe it's not. You want to come back home. So
could be many things.
Yeah.
I'm just confused with it. That's really, I mean, I can't really go any further into it, but I'm just confused with it because to me, I think that there were people who were really bothered by, him leaving. And the question for me is, are they happy for him coming back, or some mad because, you've got, all of a sudden my kid, again,
it's a mixture like any other hire, any other move.
But I think people want to win. When you go on 30,
well, let me ask you this.
They want some wins.
They want to win.
Let me ask you this.
So maybe it didn't matter.
How important would it be for your kid to play? Are you so you want to win, and you want your kid to play?
It depends on what I'm saying, and I hear you when you say that, but it depends on where my kid is. If my kid has no aspiration going to college, we ain't thinking about that. He just playing high school football, and then after that, it's over. I want you to be on a playoff team. I want you to experience winning. I want you to have fun. I want you to have those high school memories. So when you get back with your boys, you can talk about the playoff games and y'all had this big win and da-da-da-da-da. Now, again, if my kid is going to be a collegiate athlete, he's going in that direction, then there's a different thought process and conversation. Again, the wins don't necessarily mean that he's going to go further or anything like that.
No.
But are you going to put my kid in a position where you're going to play and get the best out of him so I can get recruits and get tapes and we can go to the next level? So it depends on where your kid's at.
Well, okay,
And it could be a good thing if your kid is exposed to the challenges and having to compete for a position, because they're going to have to do it at the collegiate level anyway if they have aspirations.
If they have those aspirations,
yes.
Because a lot of NFL players they didn't win in high school. Now that's not everybody's story,
right?
But if you're just a regular dude, man, I want to win. If I'm just a regular dude and this ain't going no further.
And okay, so I'm gonna, as much as I criticize you on. On the realization of my goals, I'll give you this. I'm not willing to let anybody get my job. Like, if you know, my
we know that,
process,
Coach. Your record says that, Coach.
In my mind, I'm not thinking, you know, and my dad is not, you know, if I'm not playing, my dad is saying it's me. He ain't saying it's the coach. He ain't talking about the coach. My dad is going to say, you know, because
hence why you went to the NFL for 20
exactly,
years.
yes. Difference in
back when there was when Daddy Ball was at its best. There was a gentleman who was playing for me. Dad was a booster at the high school. He makes varsity. I don't make varsity, right? So what Dad knew was, in order to play, you got to make varsity. So you got to make varsity. Then once you make varsity, you got to get in the lineup, especially if you think I'm coming to a game, right? Yeah. I try to explain to him, like, you know, we didn't have no term like Daddy Ball back then. I'm like, Dad, his dad is a booster. That's why he made the team. Mm-hmm. And Dad said, well, I can guarantee you this. If you outplay him that much, I don't think the coach will care how much money he gives him. He gonna keep you on the team instead of him.
Fact.
And in my mind, that's how I functioned the whole entire time. Like, I just gotta outwork before I can outplay. I gotta outwork you, and then I can outplay you. So now I can get in. My issue though is,
and just to put a pin in that right quick, that conversation that you just had with yourself and your father is not happening
exactly
at the level no more. People are not having that conversation. That's a totally different conversation than what even if elite athletes are getting. So what I'm trying to say is that a kid is just not coming to the field with that sort of mindset and that conversation from the top. And the top is mom and dad, right?
Right.
They're not coming with that. Because, again, think about what you just said. Your dad ain't say outplaying. Your dad said outworking. That's a foundational root matter. That starts before you even strap up the chin strap and the helmet and going on the field. And a lot of kids, I would say most kids, at least unless they have it in them, they're not getting that conversation.
Bro, I'm up and home before Dad leaves to go to work, just so he knows I was out to run.
That's what I'm.
There you go. See, that's the thing.
And again,
you had some natural God-given gifts, but then after that, you had to work to develop that.
Absolutely.
And you had somebody telling you that.
Yes.
You had somebody saying, like, this is what you're doing.
And it was actually an expectation. He ain't really say get up. Like, he wasn't waking me up. Mm-hmm. He wasn't going to ask me. He wasn't going to ask me why you didn't run today. He wasn't none of that. But what we knew was where the goal was.
And that's what I'm saying. And when you look at, particularly when you talking about fathers, when you look at Richard Williams, when you look at LeVar Ball, it's just not a mystery why their kids are professional athletes and made it that far. It ain't no mystery. And what I'm just trying to say, because they had an expectation and they had a look at yourself first before you turn your eyes to anything else and deal with you first and then go out there. Right? And I'm just saying,
I was thinking of Tiger Woods, too.
Tiger Woods, too. So a lot of parents just ain't doing that. They're looking at the coach. They're looking at the facility, the system, the offense, the defense, the coach, blah, 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 blah. So what I'm just saying as a coach now, and that's why I'm pitting it on the coach, man, you got it, man. It's just I don't see how anybody would coach now. It's just such a hard job.
It's a hard gig.
And you got to get ready for everything.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared for that. So you may have to be, as a coach, I may have to give you the daddy speech. And if you're not prepared to do that as a coach, then you can't coach in this climate.
And can you imagine, like, coaches from back in the day dealing with the transfer portal today? I mean, some of those coaches they wouldn't have stood a chance. Yeah.
They
I mean, it wouldn't have
girls.
happened. It just.
So we're gonna stay here.
And some of the greatest coaches of all time may not have been
100%
in this atmosphere. You think about that.
100%.
Food for thought.
I could probably take this another half an hour easily, but we've got to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you listening, and we will be back again next week.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Visit frankwalkerlaw.com. Share your thoughts, ask questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook page. Just search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And don't forget to like the page to join the conversation. Catch past episodes anytime at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. And tune in Thursday nights at 7 or Sunday evenings at 8 for Let's Talk with Carl Lee.
If you fall, dust it off and get back up on your feet. Anything could be a win, yup, even defeat. They say sugar bad for you, why is victory sweet? Couldn't play with big kids, I had to sit in the street and watch from a distance, but over time I grew. If I put in the work, in no time I'm due. Everything that I worked and prayed, I'm okay. If you ask me, how did I do it, I'm gon' say you gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work. 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 You gotta work.